think a lot of Japanese people, most of them, they don't know essays, stories. The medal that he earned, this.
Not any medal, but Japan's highest civilian award, the Order of the Sacred Treasure, presented by the emperor himself to Genji Mihara, a businessman, community leader, and award-winning poet.
百も経つ出雲をいでて50年レニアの雲に湧く我の胸
His contributions should really be more well known within Seattle.
Without Genji Mihara, we would have looked very different.
In 1907, Mihara was the first from his family to come to America. He was known as an Issei, or first-generation immigrant.
He heard that if go to America, like money tree, it's growing.
Soon after he arrived, he opened the Occidental Cafe in Pioneer Square. He helped organize Japanese restaurant workers. He also became a leader in the Presbyterian church community.
All the Japanese models in the community were Buddhists, and we couldn't relate to them because we were Christian.
Mihara was also an unofficial statesman. Here, he's planting cherry trees in Seattle with the Prime Minister of Japan in 1929. Anti-Asian sentiment at the time prevented him from becoming a U.S. citizen, but he was determined to show he belonged.
His friends and comrades were all Issei. Everyone in the community was like his new extended family that he was supporting.
The Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor.
And then came the war. The next day, the FBI rounded up Mihara and other leaders in the Japanese community.
That was a strategy that the FBI took, so the community was without leadership. It's like we took the mayor and the council members and the governor away overnight.
Mihara was first detained at the immigration center in Seattle and then moved to other camps.
A lot of the Issei were very resigned to their fate, and I think Genji was one of them.
Mihara spent 4 years surrounded by barbed wire and desolation.
罪もなし無料列車に窓もなし
He found comfort writing poetry.
And then because he was doing so much within the internment camp, they secluded him because he's kind of dangerous type.
It turns out Mihara's ability to organize was his ticket out. He was released early from camp to help his fellow Japanese Americans resettle back into a sometimes hostile environment.
It was very difficult. Most people could not find housing. They had to sell whatever housing they had before the war and then came back, and no one would rent to them. So they sent Genji back to be like, okay, can you identify some locations where people maybe can stay temporarily?
Seattle's Japanese language school was one of those places. They called it the Hunt Hotel. Many families transitioned here until all that remained were single older men. Mihara kept the doors open until the very last man passed away in the hotel in the late 50s. After the war, Mihara's prominence continued to rise within Seattle's Japanese American community. He sent money and supplies to war-ravaged Japan, and he helped Japanese war brides adjust to life in the U.S.
The community was the most important to him, more important than sometimes even his own home life.
Mihara remained a fixture in the Japanese community until his death in 1982.
One of Genji-san's pride and joys was the language school.
Now, almost 30 years later, the history of Mihara's life's work is being retold. The Japanese Cultural and Community Center of Washington now celebrates his life with its own exhibit.
Genji Mihara was advancing not only Japanese American community, but also the reputation of Japanese immigrants in Japan.
We want to pass down this important history.
Soon, the same will happen in Japan.
The history of Japanese overseas to the Americas is very little known. Many people, they don't know the history of emigration to the Americas.
Even in death, Genji Mihara serves as a beacon of humanity. Yasuke Kawasaki could attest to that. He was one of the last residents of the Hunt Hotel. He died with no money and no known friends or family. Mihara wanted to make sure Kawasaki didn't spend eternity alone. so he had Kawasaki buried right next to him at the Lakeview Cemetery in Seattle.
No person left behind, always caring about even the sick, the elderly, the less fortunate. It shows how really dedicated Genji was to the community as a whole.
So with every drumbeat, every community festival, and every word of Japanese spoken, Mihara's legacy in the Northwest lives on.
He sensed someday his life work can be recognized by this Japanese community, and so he is very proud.
Genji was very much on the side of being American. Even when he felt lost, his pride of being an American immigrant and making his life in America was what guided him.
Watch CityStream Thursday nights at 7 on the Seattle channel, or get video on demand and podcasts anytime at seattlechannel.org.